Hey everyone, welcome to the August 12th. I can't believe it's August 12th. Generative writing workshop. Today we are going to have so much fun because today is improv day. And it's just crazy and fun to see what happens with it. I was so excited to see Jessie show up because it's your first time experiencing it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love
Yeah.
Okay. And fear it and then love it again.
Yeah.
Sure.
You'll
Okay.
You'll forget the fear until you get the next one. It's like having a kid. You never know what's coming,
Improv?
and yeah, you don't know what's coming out, and you just keep going.
I was just gonna say,
Well,
she doesn't need to fear it, does she?
No, I did improv when I was in forensics. Let's go. I'm
This is
excited.
gonna be so easy for you.
So you might know some of the words he throws out.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
as long as Sarah's not in charge and throwing out, what was it, a word a
It's like
second?
15 every 15 seconds.
No, it's crazy. I heard.
Come on, guys.
I lost my internet connection and Sarah took over and whipped everybody.
It was fun.
I showed back up. Actually, I think my mom had a like
Electrical
to go
thing.
help with.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was hilarious and awesome, and we should do that more often. Y'all could always do that on your in-between weeks. Why not, right?
That would be fun, actually.
You'll see how easy it is. So we're moving into module 7 for English 529. A big thanks to Sarah. Apparently I'm teaching 532 again next term.
No.
So next term I'm teaching 529 and 532. And I'm excited about it. That was a fun class, especially with all the shorter and shorter writing. I think that's, right up my wheelhouse. It's my kind of thing. So I'm excited about that. But for 529, next week is module 7, which is the second full draft of your stories. I'm loving the way that Jessie's blowing up her stories. So, everybody's had 529. This is when I'm like, blow it up, do all the weird stuff with it, because this is your chance to find out what happens when you get highly experimental, because you could always go entirely back to what you did in your first draft. And Jessie is having, and honestly, I think it complicates your story in really superb ways. How are you feeling about that change, Jessie?
I actually like it now that I've sat on it for a second. At first I was really, I guess, hesitant to introduce that because I don't know, I have this vision of how the family is, and how much you'll sacrifice for yourself. But I do like how it complicates the idea that like the love you feel for people has to, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, but
Yeah,
I like it.
I think it excuses the dad a lot more because he becomes addicted to drink. And because of that, I really think that makes it sort of more okay. It's not his fault. He was so sad.
Sure.
Right. And so then it allows your main character. What's Isaiah's dad's name? Who's our main character?
I think his name is Patrick. I don't use it. I think I use it one time.
Oh, he's unnamed. That makes me feel better. So our unnamed character, he, picks up generationally where his dad kind of didn't. And I think it's great. It's really great. Plus, I think it's Isaiah's love that converts him into Grandpa into doing his job, right?
Yeah.
So now that I've spoken super obliquely to all the people who haven't read Jessie's story, allow me to say it's a really cool story. I'm very excited.
I like that stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Is there something going on with the name Patrick? Because in our short stories, I've had through this week, I think it's 3 Patricks already.
Really?
The name of the week or something.
it has lots of like layers of meaning that could happen with it. So it seems like a good choice. Anyway, I mean, Jessie, if you get wild and crazy, you should share it with the Slack group if you feel up for it, because y'all, it's kind of like what's the word? I'm almost like a mythology. Like it's what's that word? I've forgotten. It's like a where things come from story.
Is it like a folklore type? That's not it.
Yeah. Kind of a
There's something.
folklore story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. anyway, it's fun and I hope she shares it with y'all because I really am enjoying it. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did critique on it as well. If you haven't read it, you should. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah,
Oh, did
Randall
you, Randall?
was
Thank
really
you.
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
good, isn't it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it's the kind of story this group really enjoys. And for
Mhm.
Kaleidoscope, which is starting-ish, definitely on Monday, that's most of you are people who know me. There's one person who I don't recognize, but everybody else, you know, you're probably going to be weird and I'm going to love it.
Can
I
I,
love it more than Kat does. I think I'm a little weird that way.
can you do a kaleidoscope in September? Because at the moment, my September is the next time I'm free for the next eon.
Yeah, I mean, Kat has to sort of agree to when we're doing it, and it sounds like we're gonna wait a bit because, you know, we got a much lower attendance in August, which makes sense. You know, we know that, but we still wanted to have something available, and so September we're running a mix and meet, and that's, I mean, we don't have to run one or the other, but right now it sounds like that's what we're doing in September.
Where is the mix and meet?
It's on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
I need to put it on the website because now we have a date. It's
Okay, it's not a in person.
it's in person, it's synchronous. It happens at a specific time on a Tuesday night.
It's like this, only
I
a different
wish-
group.
I wish we
Yeah.
could start at 4 p.m. I haven't been able to convince her. The most fun thing about this partnership has been learning. I think, you know, sort of the East Coast thinks that they are the time zone. And the rest of us out here on the West Coast are like, hey, we exist too. So we'll keep working on it. I don't know. I mean, if we had enough interest in certain ways, maybe we could like do a West Coast mix and meet, but it would take, I mean, you know, you could reach out to us on the Birch Bark email address and make a request.
I will, because I'm like, I'm still working at 2:00.
Mhm. Yeah. So if you did that, it's worth a try. Because, you know, again, it's a give and take to be in a partnership with somebody in a business, right? Yeah. Wow, we've talked for so long about things that are not to do with what we're doing today. But again, a complete draft of the short story, no more than 2,500 words. I know you know, Jesse, but we did have some people who were really unable to have read all the directions correctly, and we're working on it. Hopefully they'll get it right. I think it's really disappointing for people because I just download the paper and find out where 2,500 words is and I stop at 2,500 words because I think that's fair to
Yikes.
everybody else who kept it within the boundaries. And I
Right.
think that's very hard for people. I would want my whole story to have feedback, and so
Right.
I feel bad, but I don't feel bad because it's clear, but you know, I still wish whatever,
Right.
you know. Okay, so
You're being firm. It's a good thing.
I'm pretty firm. I think my military background shines through sometimes.
Mhm.
Just like if I've commented on say an articulation of response thing, like the extra spaces between paragraphs, which seems to be a life goal for me that'll never be met. I've given instructions on how to do it. I've given it 4 different times. At this point, you just lose points for it because I've clearly
Right.
guided people all the way through the course.
Mhm.
So this book, When We Were Twins by Danuta Hink, she is the very first AWP panel I ever served on, like presented on. She was part of the panel and she's an amazing author. This book is just out and my understanding is it's got a really heartbreaking content. I am 32 pages into it and it's that beautiful writing. It's set in, I think, Egypt, and she's Polish as her first language, but she's American now. And I think that she writes foreign people with such a good voice because she's using foreign English because she knows how to, even though she is an English teacher, she has perfect grammar, she has perfect English, you know, she knows how to write it in this superb way. And so I'm just really excited to see how it turns out. I'm going to write review on it when I'm done reading it, and I'm going to use it as our source for the improv writing today. So improv writing is pretty simple. I'm going to use this prompt, and I want to throw it up now because it doesn't have to be you. It can be, we were brought here because, or I arrived here because, or you can change the voice of it. It doesn't have to be a first person. It could be they brought you here, or they brought us here, or change the voice to whatever you want it to be for your writing. And that's why I put it up early, so you can figure out what you wanted to do. Now, I want you to take your version of these 5 words, write them down on a piece of paper, and have them ready so that your version's already chosen and you won't spend any time during the improv time trying to figure out which version you're going to do. Then when I get you started in the 6-minute writing prompt, every 30 seconds, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to throw a word at you. And that word, you can use it in the form I send it. You can turn it into a verb if it's a noun. You can use a part of the word. You don't even have to technically use the word, but the idea is to allow that word to shape where your story is going and just keep rolling and see where you end up with it. Because these words, well, you'll see. I'm not even gonna say anymore because this is how it works. So I want you to begin with your version of I brought you here because. And on your marks, get set, right. Your first word is liquid. I put it in the chat as well. Folded, folded. Occupy, occupy. Conundrum, conundrum. Parchment, parchment. Sharpened, sharpened. Oops. Medieval. Medieval. Gratitude. Gratitude. You have 1 minute left and your final word is peace. Peace. Next up, please do your best to wrap things up and come forward. How did it go?
It was tough.
It should
Some
be a
of the
little
words
bit
were really tough.
Yeah. How
Yeah,
fun though that
It
every
was
one
fun.
of these words is in that novel, right?
Right. Yeah.
I
I
used
actually, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I used to push hard to always give just verbs, but I found it's fun just to get funky words. What were you gonna say, Lisa?
The funkiest one was medieval for me. That one was tough.
That after seeing Kristen's handwriting on the Slack channel, I decided that instead of racing through my story and writing, I'd try good handwriting, because normally I can't read my own handwriting. So I actually, this is my attempt, but I found that writing slower so that I could have better handwriting, I didn't get out as much as I wanted to, but it was much more focused writing.
Interesting,
Mm.
very interesting. We'll have to see what came of that.
Now my wrist hurts.
Well, who wants to go first?
I vote for Jesse.
That's
How
not
dare
fair.
you? But I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good. All right. And now I have to try to read my handwriting, which is always chicken scratch. Okay. I brought her here because the flowers surround the water like wisps of her hair frame her face. Because the liquid pools of her eyes reflect me imperfectly, like ripples on the water surface fold me in on myself. I can simply exist within her. Because she occupies everything in my field of vision. And I see, oh no, I see something that I can't read. I see something, maybe, no. Sorry. Yeah, okay. She's always a mystery, a conundrum of intricacies, blots of ink on parchment that I dedicate myself to deciphering like rings in a tree trunk. Like the sharpened rocks at the shore, she can cut me. If we were enemies, she would, but she guides me around her dangers into the safety of her waters. Medieval beliefs tell us that our love cannot be here, but we are as natural as the flowers and the lake and the trees that surround us. I have my gratitude for showing her the peace and perfection of our love reflected in the world around us. I wish I could read what I wrote up there, but that's it.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice job. Nice job. What do you think, everybody?
I love the repeat of the flowers on her face at the beginning, and then the tree trunk, and then again at the end, the flowers, like the threading it through everything. It was beautiful.
Same.
I really like how it flowed naturally and you had like that arc throughout it. And it just worked really, really, really well. Like
Oh,
the imagery at the beginning really brought me into it, especially like the wisp through her hair. And then I think my internet cut out for like part of your story, but it flowed so beautifully.
oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I liked the poetic aspect of the language to it. Particularly the phrase that stuck out to me was when you said, "I can simply exist," and that explains so much about when you're comfortable with somebody, because there are very few people you ever reach that kind of comfort with.
Yeah.
Especially the idea that it's not allowed, and yet it's so natural that it has to be right. Whatever it is, isn't wrong, even though they're being told it's wrong. And that's a nice little mystery in this piece. We don't know, and kind of you've helped readers understand that we shouldn't care. Whatever is not allowed, that's not a part of what's happening here, which is really beautiful. And like Randall said, very poetic. Anybody want to add anything? Nicely done, Jesse. You survived your first improv writing prompt.
I did it.
And it turned out great. And the fun thing about these is sometimes they will lead to something because you get ripped around so much. We'll see. Who wants to go next? I mean, I think kind of Elisa owes it to us, but
Okay.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
I rearranged some of your words so they're not in the order, but like I went back and edited the sentence.
sure.
I brought you here because I thought I loved you. I was wrong. I brought you here because I needed you for me. It was a liquid, selfish need of mine, purely selfish. I didn't think of you or yours or the implications of taking your life and folding it into mine. But now, 10 years later, I'm glad I was so selfish and occupied with myself, and that you loved me too. That look at us now, look at what we have achieved, which is so much as a unit of one. It's a conundrum that I ever hesitated or worried. If I could, I would go back and rewrite my intentions. I'd clarify them and send them on parchment to the skies. To hell with the medieval intentions of our family and enemies. To hell with those who begrudge us. To hell with those who said I started off wrong. I'm filled with gratitude that you agreed to come, that you understood my need, my love, my word-thought conflict, that you came and gave me peace.
Way more focused, Elisa.
Yep.
What do you all think?
Wow.
Yeah.
You should write slower more often. Thoughts, people?
You had a very complete narrative arc in that your character was realizing that initial intentions were selfishness, not something they realized to begin with, but something they came to realize, and then realized, you know what, it's okay because things turned out the way they are, and I'm glad that they're the way they are. So that even though you, like you said, you didn't write as much as you wanted to, I do feel like you had a complete narrative arc, like your character changed, and we learned a lot about who they were just through this very limited exposure to their thoughts.
Thanks, Randall.
Yeah.
What else?
Not gonna lie, if you didn't use all the words, I would have been like, you cheated. You wrote this before and are just reading this. But no, I loved how you made the words work so great. And I think rearranging the words really, really, really worked for your story in such a positive way.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And that's not cheating.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that's okay.
I agree with Randall though. Like I'm just so taken by the complete arc and the character development that we see there, because it stood out to me so much in your very beginning lines where you talk about how it was not love that brought your narrative to this person. It was strictly need. And then I feel like we see that develop right into something that's more more love-based, like more complete there.
Mhm.
And that was like a really well done in such a short span of time. Yeah, it was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, if a short story is supposed to show, especially the main character changing over the course of it, this one utterly saw the world in a new way, particularly with that wisdom to look back at an earlier version of herself and say, I was being selfish. Did I love you? I don't know. I mean, do I even know what love was back then? Right. But what I can say is now I am. But this liquid selfish need of mine, I love that. I love the way these words can help open up concepts, because I think we all like to clarify them and send them on parchment to the sky. So you had ideas that got amplified by using unusual words with them. And that's, I think, what I love the most about this exercise. So, Lisa, possibly the best thing you've written for us so far. Nice.
Thank you.
Yay. All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Thanks, Randall.
I brought myself here because the village called to me. Hidden in the valley, it whispers to those who long for elsewhere, like a letter from a lover, their whisper a liquid allure in a bitter world. The houses are small and old, lived in and folded neatly into their pocket on the street. Spirits from within look out, happy to occupy the sleepy, smoky quiet of an eternal misty morning. Cobblestone roads intersect here and there, raising the conundrum of which street to take. From within, I hear the crackle of fire, the scratch of pen on parchment, and sharpened laughter of the lazily enduring. I move for the center of town, medieval stone marking the way, but there are no walls here, for no enemies can find this place. The hills are locks, proof against all thieves of peace. Gratitude engulfs me as I find the tavern, and willowy heads turn to regard me like gossamer strands kissing the wind. I sigh in peace, and the warm shadows embrace me.
Amazing.
That was beautiful.
Fantastic. Love it.
Such a vivid scene. Yeah.
Right. I can very, very easily see everything that this person is seeing as they're walking through this new town, right? Very easy to do.
I really like the feeling. It was like at the beginning he's just walking in, but then I felt like he was more saying that, now he feels safe and secure. So it was like, I'm finding this place. Is it for me or not? But it was basically a town description that conveys such safety and security for the person walking through. It was really, really nicely done. I like it. It's just so much more than just, oh, here's the town.
Yeah, the setting had meaning, right?
Right.
As we read about. What else? I obviously liked a lot of individual little lines that I put in the chat.
Mhm.
I loved, there's so many things like just like phrases that you said, but like Dr. Max is saying, like the setting came alive. And I think that was like the coolest part for me. I was like, I was there. I could absolutely see it. It was beautiful, Randall.
Setting was a character for you. Just so
Mhm.
you already spoke, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get distracted. I loved the idea. Elisa put the hills are locks, and I didn't have time to put that down because I was listening to the sentence, but it goes on to say, against all thieves of peace. And what a metaphor. Hills as locks, which is something I'd never considered before. So the opposite of cliche. And then thieves of peace is, I mean, that should be the title of a book. It's just such a great description of, I mean, at least in my experience, there's peace and it's always robbed in an exterior way, in the way that thieves come to it. And so I just love that combination that came out of your head. And for you, it seemed like you often write to us in this specific world, and this did not feel like it was part of it. Was it part of that world that you've been writing to that often shows up in that's your thesis world?
No, actually, I was listening to ambient music on YouTube today, and I put it on when I'm working on my book, and the artwork to it kind of inspired it because it was like a Halloween village, and the picture was a skeleton wearing a witch's hat, like leaning on a grave that had runes on it, and looking down into this like smoky village. But it wasn't like traditional spooky Halloween; it was like whimsical.
Yeah.
So I don't know, my head's kind of been in that place all day, so I figured I'd explore the streets a little bit.
Yeah, whimsical is exactly the word to describe what you wrote, I think.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I can definitely see a fae, a fae walking down the street or something like that.
Yeah. And safe from the dangerous aspects. If it was Halloween, more whimsical than evil, for sure. Does anybody want to add anything? So we still have Sarah and Suzanne. Sarah, are you planning on reading this time? Okay. Suzanne.
All right. I brought you here because you begged me for help. The man gestured wildly around the room. My legs were liquid as I tried to break the vines to the wooden chair. You were in that gold dress and grabbed a folded jacket from the display. I told you, I don't want to occupy your time, but you smiled and left in a tizzy. I didn't remember him or what he was talking about. I looked to the sharpened blade he held, the light glistening off it. It was a conundrum to find you again, but I did. I saved you from your enemies. Don't you see? His eyes were white with how wide they were. His gestures grew more erratic as I tried not to look at the medieval torture devices that lined his walls. Now, I want you to give me your gratitude. Say thank you, and don't scream, and I'll take the parchment gag out. Peacefully, don't you hear? My mouth was dry before I opened my mouth and screamed.
Very cute.
Very unexpected is what I would say. Not where I thought you were going to go with it.
Fair.
It's giving me the same vibes as what you read to us last week. It's very much like that, playing with expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that she took the parchment out and screamed, because like to me that's always been like, you see it in the movies where they say, I'll take the gag off and be quiet, and I'm just like, hell that, like, take the gag off, I'm going to scream my lungs out. Like, why are all these people in the movies take the gag off and they're quiet? Like, hello. So I love the fact that she opened her mouth and screamed.
What
I also
else?
think you did a really good job of making it creepy before you revealed what was going on, because I was definitely getting the feeling that something's not quite right
Yeah.
from your descriptions in the early in the piece.
Do you have anything, Randall?
No, I think what I was gonna say, I got derailed. I was listening to something that y'all were talking about and got derailed on it. My favorite part of it though was the parchment. For some reason, stuck out to me because at first it felt like, okay, this is being pushed into here. It doesn't fit, but I think afterwards, the way you ended up using it worked very well to bring it into the piece after it feeling so out of place.
Particularly because she had a dry mouth and she screamed. I agree with you, Randall, that that parchment, I'm like, okay, you know, you were making that work. And then it's her dry mouth scream because of the parchment.
Right.
Plus he had medieval torture devices. So this guy is just like an oddity. And I love the plot point. Somebody wrote on this last term, I think, in English 529, where there was a guy that had grabbed a girl and was, you know, getting ready to maybe kill her or commit a murder-suicide with his car. And she was like, wait, who are you? And then she remembers, and it's somebody she's been nice to all along, which is even worse. You know, like he's not a part of her circle, but and I think those stories really speak to gendered expectations in our society and the way that women are expected to treat men. Sorry, Randall. I think you seem like you would not be one of these people who would have this expectation. So yeah, as a generalization, we're supposed to be nice. We're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to be pliant, right? And she's not, and she also doesn't even know who he is. And so I love that. And I feel like there's a ton of mystery that is waiting to be unpacked in that story. You know, what he thinks he's saving her from, you know, whether she could be grateful for that. Like, is there going to be some sort of weird Stockholm syndrome happening? So I feel like we've had a glimpse into a world that needs to keep going. And speaking of keeping going, the next step in the improv writing prompt is for you to pick your very favorite sentence. And if they're short, you can pick more than one sentence, but your very favorite sentence from what you wrote. And then I'm going to give you 6 minutes to write forward from there. So it starts with, I brought you here because, and then you should basically use some kind of, and then, or as a result of, or there's a version of this that uses the word as such, but I don't have it. Anyway, basically take, I brought you here because, and then take past the because and be, and as a result, and then take it somewhere forward. Okay. So pick your sentence and on your marks, get set, write. have a minute left. All right, go ahead and try to wrap things up. I hope it went well. Just over here drinking my mushroom coffee, wondering if you're gonna come back.
Mushroom coffee.
Yeah, I'm trying out that Rise coffee, RYZE, not
Mm,
coffee. It's a combination of mushroom stuff, and
mhm.
I
Kind of mushrooms.
Is it lion's mane?
mean, I think
I'm
there's
really into mushrooms.
I think there's some in there. I'll while you guys are wrapping up, I will find the website and share it with you. And it tastes all right. And it for me, I mean, I can barely drink caffeine without giving myself a, mess. And so for this, I'm just trying to find if it'll tell me what's in it, but it doesn't seem really interested in it. I'll do our story. Maybe that'll help. Anyway, I just wanted something with less caffeine in it. And I don't know, tastes good. Doesn't help with bloating and stuff. Maybe I'm a probably postmenopausal woman, so who knows?
Doesn't help.
Mhm.
What'd you say, Sarah?
Doesn't help with floating.
Bloating.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
If I could
Closed caption doesn't always get it right.
sorry. No, closed caption definitely does not always get it right. Well, on that fun story of mushrooms, none of them psychedelic. Who would like to go?
That's what I've been wondering all this time, just watching and waiting.
So can I go first? Because I have a hard stop in 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Please do.
Okay. I brought you here because of the medieval attentions of our family and enemies. They did not care for you or I. One pulled left, one pulled right, and we were pulled apart in the middle. So I grabbed you late at night, woke you from your bed, and together we ran until we found the ocean and the end of the land. And we rejoiced in each other. And then reality hit, and life was hard, and our joy turned to sorrow and anger and hate. And we knew our family and enemies were right. They knew life better than we thought we did. And we retreated from the ocean and made our way back across the land. And I put you back in your bed and back in your sleep. And then I woke.
Oh, a dream. Thoughts, everyone?
You had another narrative arc.
Like you could write two short stories, like one themed like the first one that you did today, and the second like as a mirror almost to what you did before. That'd be kind of cool.
Yep.
Maybe.
How do we feel about learning the lesson we learned in the story through a dream?
The what?
The lesson we learn in this story through a dream. How do we feel about this as readers?
I think it really depends on how it's done, because sometimes dreams can really make you feel robbed when you get to the end of a story. But I think it depends on if the lesson is learned, or if, it kind of just becomes, thank goodness that wasn't real.
Well, I think you have a good line in there that helps with that. You say something about their parents know life better than we do, something along those lines.
Better
That
than we
I
think
feel
we
like
do.
really there. And I think that connects really well with the fact that this is a dream, because they out there are dictating life, but you have your own version of it in here, right? So I feel like that kind of counterbalances people's distaste for the dream narrative.
Particularly because she says better than we think we know life. But one of the
Mhm.
characters in the dream is then having the dream based off of what,
Mhm.
oh, I'm going to say she because it's Elisa writing, what she knows about life. So it's kind of playing back on itself, right?
Right.
If the character were to learn something from this dream, what do we think the character learned? That's what I'm kind of getting at.
Mm.
That maybe the families and the enemies, the families which are the enemies, aren't actually their enemies.
Right.
That they actually might be right, and you're running off to the sunset with your, lover is probably not the right thing to do. They might have a point.
And of course, what young person can be told that?
Like,
I mean, I think that story gets written over and over again, falling on the deaf ears of the young and the receptive ears of all of us who have done it,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Suzanne, did I cut you off from any thoughts?
No, that was exactly it. Yeah, like the narrator doesn't know everything that they thought they did. That was exactly it. Yep.
And it's super tough to write that. So this is a good start, Elisa. It's just a question of, no, dream narratives can work. And I'm sort of 50-50 on them. I mostly, like, I would encourage people in class not to write them. That doesn't mean you shouldn't write them.
Mhm.
Keeping in mind what Randall and Jesse and everybody said.
Okay, I'll work on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us this morning. I know that you have your hard stop.
Yeah. So.
All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Thanks, Randall.
Willowy heads turned to regard me like gossamer strands kissing the wind. They told me that the banshees couldn't see you if you didn't hear their cries. My hands flew to my ears as I stumbled away, but the wax was still pressed firmly into place. I could worry about the why later. For now, I had to run. Briars tore at my face as I fled through the trees, each one the imagined ghostly hand that would claim my life. I gasped for air as I tripped over a root, feeling something in my leg snap as I tumbled over and over through leaves and loam. I tried to rise, breathless, but icy cold hands gripped my face and held me down. I howled as the scent of mold and terror filled my nose. The ephemeral green ladies surrounded me, holding me down as their gnarled fingers carefully pulled the wax from my ears. Leave me alone. What do you want from me? A sibilant voice reached out to tickle my ears. We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
That's good. That is so good. Oh my
I
God.
just want to say that I think journals are taking Halloween stuff right now, and you have to submit that. He's got a broken leg rolling in the leaves and loam, smelling mold and terror, and it's all appropriate.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right. Well, thoughts, everybody, other than just absolutely hilarious.
Fabulous. I love the wax in the ears. Now that we got the punchline, that's even better. But like, oh my God, the wax in the ears and the banshee crying, fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah, you just painted such a picture of terror for this person. Like I was there, you know, I could see it. You're running through, these briars are catching at you, you know, everything that tugs at you, you really believe is this entity behind you about to catch you. And at the end, it really is the inescapability of extended warranty and car stuff. And it still works. It's not even like it's not like a, I don't know, like a cheap shot at a joke. Like it's so perfect. You know, that's good.
That, yeah, agreed. Like you did that so great. And I think like just all that build up and then the twist was so well executed. It was great. It was so great.
The teeter-totter of metaphor, right? So we're taking the horror seriously. And then we get cracked up, I'm like crying, by the extended warranty, but also the like ennui of life that is the horror we're running from. Both the metaphor is running both ways. And I think that's extra clever because it's, you know, a metaphor of running, but it's the life is brutish, nasty, and short, and then we die, and still being chased by our extended car warranty. Which I don't think I've ever had that call, and I still find that so funny. Because we all understand.
You shouldn't have said that out loud. It's coming now.
Yeah, yeah, need to knock on wood, do something.
Especially because we just got this grocery getter car, so it's coming. You're right. And then I'm going to think of Leaves and Loam, which you do such a lovely job of. You created the synesthesia early on of they can't see you if you can't hear them, which is an awesome, like, how are you invisible? It's based on the character's perception of their existence for the character to exist to them. That's really complicated and nice. And then you bring in a bit of synesthesia when you say, or yeah, I guess it's synesthesia, not really synesthesia, but the fact that you can smell terror is such a great way to use the senses in an unusual way. So all the way through this, you're asking us to use our senses unusually. And it's so like sort of complex and literary. And then you just land the ending, which is fantastic. That's really great. Okay, well, thank you for giving some of the best humor I'll have this morning.
Yeah. Thank you for doing it well before my deadlines. I enjoyed it. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Lisa.
Have
All
fun.
right. We have possibly 3 people left. Are you going this time, Sarah?
Yeah,
Okay, you want to read?
it's short. Sure. Fucking conundrum, Cassie rolled her eyes, walking out of the court-appointed adults skills group, balancing checkbooks, monthly budgeting, and $200 cash when I graduate. What about everything else? I don't know how to get a job. I can't drive. Moving costs will be low. My books, my doll. 3 hoodies, 1 pair of jeans, 0 food, trash bags for luggage. Hey, maybe I can buy bigger trash bags. Fucking conundrum. I went into the system with inner and outer baggage. Should I get scented garbage bags? Fucking conundrum.
Love the use of repetition, one that could keep going for sure. Which Suzanne just said in the chat. The inner and outer.
I like where you were. I think what you would have been like continued to build towards if you had kept up with it, with what you mentioned about the scented trash bags and how she came in with inner and outer baggage. And there's just this idea of her having to bag up a lot of stuff and whether she's going to try to make that nice and presentable, you know, like trying to decide how she's going to move forward. I like that imagery. And I think what potential there is for it.
Yeah, that was actually what I was going to speak about too, is the idea of like the scented, like, do I want to perfume what's happened and the things that I carry, or do I just want this to be like, this is what it is, take it or leave it? And I think there's a lot of complicated ways that you can approach that idea of masking what is existing baggage and either trying to turn it into something that it's not, or just, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah, and especially with like all the emotion of like baggage and like packaging it up. It's just, I really love that, especially with the repetition and how it just kept building up. It really made that really strong voice for your piece.
Yeah, and with only $200, they've taught her how to balance a checking account. She has $200. Her single upscale option at this moment is scented or not scented garbage bags. And that's such a strong like metaphor for what she has to do with this baggage, including, as Randall said, that how does she package it up to take it out into the world for her. So that there's been this moment where they take all these people who need to learn apparently life skills or something, and they're like, hey, you're about to enter the world, so here's how you do it. And she's like, this is a fucking conundrum. Because Cassie is savvier than the people who are teaching her these life skills, and what they have not said, they know, right? If they've watched her balance her checkbook, they know what she's going out to face, and instead they're like, you'll be okay, just use these skills. And Cassie's like, it's such a fucking conundrum. So this, this scene right here would make me want to see what Cassie does with her life, because I suspect $200 in scented garbage bags are going to get her far, because she's savvy enough to make it work. Like, I believe in this character and her pluck. And so that's knowing other Cassie stories is influencing my response to it. But yeah, I really like this idea. What do you do with your baggage and how do you dress it up?
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so I think this leaves us with Suzanne and Jesse. Is that right? Okay, who wants to go?
I can go.
Okay.
I didn't remember him or what he was talking about. The monitors sped past me faster than my racing thoughts. Babe, do you remember anything? His brown eyes softened with his tone. Water rimmed the dark pools. My leg burned and my right arm crackled. Why? I try, my throat and mouth crispy. Why did you bring me here? The car caught on fire. Smoke burned through my nose. I know our rule was no hospitals, but if the car was on fire, how did you get me here? We drove separately. You were going to go home after dinner and I was going to go to work. Remember, I switched shifts to save for the house? My mind burned with the threads as I tried to grasp them.
I love that final line. Will you say it again?
Yeah, my mind burned with the threads as I tried to grasp them.
Good. That's tasty.
Actually, the thread's like shriveling up, like they're burning.
Mhm.
Yeah. And she's,
Mhm.
Casey's a good synesthesia for that.
Yeah.
Sarah asked you, did you have an earlier reference to threads?
I didn't, but I should have, because then that would have real tied it up with a nice pretty bow.
Yeah, I thought I had remembered something earlier too. So
We like pretty bows, but only if they're on fire.
Yeah.
exactly.
There you
Or
go.
grasping, like the image of grasping doesn't have to necessarily be threads, but threads would be cool.
Right. So, especially knowing the story it came from, like medieval torture instruments, all this stuff, had she mistaken a hospital room for, I feel like this is a good extension of what already existed. And had she gone somewhere in her head after a horrible accident? Or not? Or did he cause the accident?
Right. I do not trust this man
I
in
don't
this
either.
version either.
Don't you
I'm very
remember? Don't you
suspicious.
remember? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the way he's like kind of feeding all of this information to her in I don't know, kind of a manipulative way is the way it kind of sounds, but maybe it's also just influenced by the previous one, right? Like I just can't believe him.
Well, especially.
And then you say that the threads are burning in front of you, which makes me really believe that this is probably a lie that she's chasing, right?
A truth
Yeah.
she's chasing because she knows she's being lied to, but she doesn't know why.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
if they weren't in a hospital, it'd be a version of Misery in my mind. Like if they'd said no hospitals and he took her somewhere other than a hospital, there's gonna be feet cut off. It's gonna be awful. I remember Misery came out when I was a freshman, my second freshman year of college, which is what you have to do if you go to a military academy after your first year of freshman year. And Misery came out and we were so into it that, and I've never had this happen at any other time in my life, but we all had our one copy of the book and we sat there in our, I mean, we were freshmen at the Air Force Academy. We were supposed to be like marching somewhere and somebody would sit on the top bunk and read out Misery to us. And we all sat and listened to it. And it was finals week. We didn't have time. But this kind of story, the idea that a form of love or possession or sick control, I mean, it's compelling. I really want to hear more of it, which is why I told this stupid anecdote about my freshman year. But I want to sit in the other bunk and listen to this story. And Randall, did you already talk? God, I'm losing my mind.
No, I did. I was kind of curious about the same thing Sarah was. I don't know why, but we both thought the same thing and thought she had talked about threads previously. But yeah, I think if you wanted to tie the two stories together, that would be an excellent way to open.
I think you've opened up something really interesting that's worth pursuing, for sure. I'm reading also this book called Outlive. It's one of those self-helpy-ish books. No, I mean, you know what I mean. And it's telling me, you know, that this loss of memory that I'm experiencing, short-term memory like this, is not normal, and that I should, I don't know, he hasn't told me yet. I think eat better, exercise more. I'm not positive.
It's the mushrooms.
Probably both. There you go.
Actually, he said he used to think, the last thing that I heard, because it's on audio, he said, I used to think that nutrition was the most important thing, but now I think it's exercise. And he's trying to talk about third order medicine. So basically trying to prevent things from happening before they start, because the acute symptoms we have started probably a decade before you have them. So my memory, I don't know how, apparently for a decade, I should have been working on this, but anyway, that means that Suzanne's gone, Sarah's gone, Randall's gone, and that leaves Jessie. See how good my
It
memory
leaves
is?
me. We're gonna take a hard swerve from the toxic man of this last story.
Nice.
All right. I can simply exist within her. I, who cannot bear my discordant reflection in the mirror, love to see myself reflected in her. She absorbs me entirely, and like a Venus flytrap, she eviscerates what I cannot bear, and I'm reborn in her image. I'm beautiful, even though I don't understand beauty, because in her eyes, my thin arms are strong. They burst with each fibrous ligament and energy, capability. My round cheeks take sharp lines of laughter. The reflection I see in her is true. I wish she'd take her hands and mold me into that person so that I'd see them in the mirror too. But she's no god despite how I worship her, and she cannot compete with biology. So I live in the trueness of how she distorts me. Ooh, it's done. Yeah.
This is like a poem, I think. Possibly.
Yeah, I think it kind of is. I guess I'm feeling poetic today.
Definitely poetic feeling.
Yeah.
Trueness of how she distorts. Yeah.
Mm.
Thoughts.
Yeah.
With this beautiful writing.
It was really beautiful. And as your quote, that was all tasty, because that was honestly beautiful. Especially, I really, really love the juxtaposition that you did with the round cheeks with the sharp lines. And just, it was so beautiful. the whole piece. Like there is a few lines out, and I couldn't write all of them because it'd basically be the whole piece. So
Stop it. Thank you.
Other thoughts?
The thing that immediately stuck out to me was the idea of the reflection that, you know, we, in relationships with people, we see ourselves as they see us sometimes, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but also the way that you played with that, like what she pointed out about the angles versus the roundness, the way things are distorted, I think is another thing that she said, the distortion. But I also like the idea that she said she cannot defeat biology. So like there's still this lingering thought in the narrator's head about, you know, truth as the narrator sees it versus truth as it's seen through the lens of the other person. I don't know. To me, it's a very complicated idea. I think it was very well handled.
Thank you.
And Sarah was commenting in the chat about how the trueness of how she distorts me. Do you have more, Sarah? Is that your comment? Okay. Yeah. And so I think there's something here, and I'm not sure, but it's about, I was thinking of the way, I bet every one of us thought about how when somebody has affection for us, what they look like when they're looking at us. And that's the reflection we see. So we can't see what they see. But you suggested there's also something almost behavioral in it, because the sharp lines of laughter that change the round cheeks, it's that being with the person and the reflection of something even more than what the person narrating this sees themselves as. And I like this idea that the reflection that the narrator wishes they could be and that they could see for themselves comes about partially because of the relationship with this other person. That only in this person's reflection could that person be this way. And that's a love story right there.
Yeah.
I think the reason that we would claim it's poetic is I'm not positive people are forgiving or have the patience for such deeply loving language in prose, but they will forgive poetry for having it. So I don't know,
Definitely.
but it doesn't mean that you couldn't write it in like a prose poem as well, or you could consider lining it as poetry. But, you know, just thinking about what genre has appeared on the page is worthwhile.
Right. Yeah.
Another way I see that language used sometimes, like the writer I think of most with that is Patrick Rothfuss, because he has these little interludes within his book where, you know, it's mostly just kind of traditional epic fantasy, but then he also has these moments where it steps within the main character's head and it kind of goes into that more poetic language. And I think in small bursts like that, it's a good offset in your book, and it makes those passages a whole lot more impactful. So I think it can be used in longer works, but like she said, you know, people I don't think you can do it long term. It has to be something you do very intentionally and for short periods.
Yeah, definitely.
Patrick,
It can be a little
again.
tedious to work through that.
Yeah, and Patrick Rothfuss, as we've talked about, Randall, is on my poopy list anyway, because he needs to keep writing.
Yeah, him and George R.R. Martin
I know,
both need to be
right?
banished.
Both of those people, we just need to cancel them. And I will confess that I'm the person who skipped poems in Tolkien. You know, I was like, you're not advancing the plot, so I'm skipping the song or whatever. I don't know, Randall, with Tolkien, did you ever skip anything?
I love Lord of the Rings, but to this day, I'm pretty close to tearing out the Tom Bombadil section and throwing it in the fire. I hate that section of the book.
Yeah. Okay, so at least we agree on that for sure. Well, this is an amazing session, and I'm always surprised and rewarded by what happens with the improv prompt thing. And I recommend it. You know, as I've said every time we do this, you can do it for yourself simply by going through and choosing words and then recording your voice over a 5-minute period, dropping a word every 30 seconds. And if you make several of these recordings, you'll quickly forget what the words were. Maybe that's just me and this whole outlive thing. Anyway, it's still useful. It's not like, even if your brain is planning ahead for what you know is coming, it works. And so it's a wonderful way, or popping into the YouTube channel for these and going into one of my previous improv. I usually put the word improv in the title of it or in the description. It's just a great way to cure writer's block because it forces you to write. Not that any of you have it, but it also shakes free, especially if you purposefully write on a story you're working on. It will shake free concepts you weren't expecting because the words weren't chosen by you to go in the story, they were chosen by somebody else. So
Yeah,
there's
I would definitely second that. The last time we did this, I wrote a passage from my novel that's actually in my book now because of this. Like the writer's workshop we did actually made it into my book. So
I'm so
Thank
excited by
you.
that.
And Dr. Max, I started a novel from that last time we did the improv with Alina and everyone. So that was really fun. So yay, improvs.
I do think that improvs pry into a subconscious place in your mind where maybe something was already going on and your brain's like, well, I've got this material, or for Randall, it's like, well, finally, we're going to go this direction. Right. Yeah, I think it's very important. That's why for Jesse, I recommended that you explode your story because you never know what you'll discover when you do something unexpected with your work.
Yeah, definitely. I love the explosion that's happening. So
Yeah, me too. Me too. At a minimum, you're taking a more complicated look at this myth and this folklore and this family. And even if the whole explosion doesn't appear, that's going to impact the way that you write these characters just because maybe they didn't make that choice, but the choice was there, right?
yeah,
You all
definitely.
made me think of how I need to explode my memoir. So I don't know how to do that because when you're working with the truth, that's harder to explode things. I'm going to think about it though. See, you all help me every time. It's very nice to see 4 out of 5 shiny faces. And I love doing this work with you. I should be here on the 26th if y'all are interested in doing it again. That'll be moving into module 9 for English 529. And we'll just do a more traditional one where we'll read some inspiring stuff and do a prompt off it. Okay, anything from you? Have an amazing weekend. It's good to see you all.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.